Here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the House of Holocrons podcast, episode 45. In this one, we're going to be going over the Ahsoka trailer and talking about Rebels, as they do tie in, of course, quite literally, almost seamlessly, especially. But before we get too heavy into the Rebels talk, we did, of course, want to cover the Ahsoka trailer ever so slightly. And by ever so slightly, I mean completely geek out about it, because it was one of the best trailers we've gotten in a long time. It had everything for everybody. It had droids, it had starfighters, it had action, it had lightsabers, it had force choking or pushing. Someone's getting force maneuvered. And of course, we had a lot of things that we saw in that trailer that led to a lot of speculation. Now, I'm more pumped for the Ahsoka series than I ever thought I was going to be. I feel like the Ahsoka series is going to really, really dive into a lot more lore than we thought it was going to at first. And I highly disagree with anyone who says this is just going to be Rebels Season 5. I feel like this is going to be Ahsoka's story, I think, a lot more. And then the things we've seen about Sabine.
I already assumed that there's going to be a ton of lore looking at what we already were teased. So
Yeah.
if you didn't think there was, and especially if it's because there's some continuation from the last season, Rebels had a ton of lore. But even if it was like an extension of Rebels, I wouldn't complain about it.
Yeah, it was a great series. I'd say the biggest thing from the trailer that a lot of people are, of course, talking about is Sabine Wren's she's a Jedi, guys. I'm calling it. I think Sabine Wren is force sensitive. Opinion? Calls her master, literally does like a force push while trying to fight Shin Hati.
She calls her master because she did help teach her how to use the darksaber.
That's
the main reason why.
And Sabine is also characteristically very sarcastic.
Well, yes.
I mean, she's still technically a master to her. I don't know for sure. I mean, I could see that they tried to push that. It would be kind of weird. It kind of felt like the showrunners watched like the last season of Rebels. Like, she's got a saber. She's got to be a Jedi.
Hmm. I feel like the thing with Sabine being a Jedi is far more accurate, though, because think about, like, someone pointed this out. When Ezra is about to emerge from the world between worlds, she literally looks behind her and goes, "Don't worry, he's coming." There are scenes throughout a lot of the moments in Rebels when Sabine goes up to the Bendu. He wakes up for her. He only ever woke up before because Kanan was near. And he felt the turmoil of the Force within him. She does, and her ability to connect with the Darksaber was very fast. Who else wielded the Darksaber? Mandalorian Jedi. Now, of course, she's not going to be put into the Jedi Temple or really taught about the Force. One, Mandalorians don't like Jedi. Two, she was born in the middle of the Clone Wars. Nobody was really getting recruited right then. I would love for her to be Force sensitive, because that would be we finally get a Mandalorian Jedi on screen, and like kind of like almost like I wouldn't say successor to Tar Vizsla or pre-Vizsla, no, Tar Vizsla, but the idea could really then help push, I think, into like the sequel movies. I mean, if there's Mandalorian Jedi now and they're okay with joining the Jedi Order, Rey's New Order could be pretty fucking stacked.
Yeah, well, that has to change things because the two cultures don't blend very well.
Well, we already know that Rey does not follow a traditional Jedi approach.
Yeah.
Nor have the Mandalorians. They never followed the Jedi approach, and
the
cultures will never mesh regardless.
But
we would see some intermingling between the two cultures, just not the type of intermingling that we would expect to see per se.
Right, because I could see a Mandalorian Jedi.
Rigid thing.
I would think a Mandalorian Jedi would be like, I'm not going to go conquer worlds with the Mandalorians, but I'm also not going to stop them simply due to the fact that, like, that's not my role in life. I'm not meant to stop people from, like, unless they're doing atrocities and committing genocides. And a Jedi's point is...
And from a viewer's perspective, it gets kind of confusing. It's almost too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
It's like, if we do have a combination, it's like, why have normal Jedi on the show? Why have normal Mandalorians on the show? At that point, It's kind of going to the whole Munchkin vibe. You pick every nice thing, and it's. But I mean, if they want to do that for this one case, I just don't want to see. I don't want to see like as a norm.
Right.
I feel like if they do push it, I'm afraid that it would almost kind of take away from the main purpose of Ahsoka being kind of the forerunner, because it kind of makes her unique as the main character, and then you get Sabine, who's a kind of the supporting yet main character, almost kind of piggyback on not only her uniqueness as her Mandalorian heritage and the other things she brings to the table, and then she kind of also shares it with Ahsoka, the whole Jedi thing. It kind of.
I feel like that's not true though, because Anakin Skywalker wasn't taken away by Obi-Wan existing, and vice versa. We know there are millions of Force users in the galaxy full of quadrillions.
Yeah,
but none of them, not all of them, are strong enough. And that's the thing is, like, even Obi-Wan lost his connection with the Force. I don't think Sabine's going to be powerful. I don't think she's going to be like an amazing Jedi. She's just going to realize she's a bit more attuned to the universe than she thought she was.
But she doesn't really need it either.
Right. And I think that'll be a cool thing, is showing like this person knows they're now Force sensitive and has received a small bit of training, but is not pushing into the Jedi ways, is not becoming a Jedi. It's just finding an outlet for all this new power she's pretty much kind of found. I imagine Shin Hati is going to like wreck her, because, by the way, Shin Hati is now like my number one Shin Hati. That girl is, that is an amazing character. Wow. Orange lightsaber and all. Of course, then her master, Baylan Skoll, they are both fallen Jedi. Baylan Skoll talks about knowing Anakin. That should be a fun one. I could see him and Anakin getting along really well, since, I mean, he immediately turned into a mercenary after Order 66, so I don't think Baylan minds killing people.
Do we have lore for him?
Nothing aside from now what we've heard of. He's an old Jedi. We do know, like, it was confirmed he is a Jedi that survived Order 66. That is why Shin Hati also has, like, the Padawan braid still in her hair. Yeah. And he knew Anakin. That's about as far as we know now.
Yeah, they were pretty much made for the show, but I'm sure we'll see novels soon.
Yeah. I think one of the other cool things, though, so to me, the biggest reveal that I began to find after speaking with other creators is in the Ahsoka trailer, they have this thing, which is 100% a galaxy. Like, in the palm of the girl's hand, the magistrate, that is a galaxy. And then it expands into a giant orb. Do you know what that reminds me exactly of? The Rakatan star map from KOTOR. It's got grids, it's got the circles, it's got star locations and like numerical asterisks and stuff. That thing reminds me 100% of a Rakatan star map. When Shin Hati asks Baylan, when we find Thrawn, what will we get? Power beyond you have ever known. What if it's another Starforge? And that's how we get the Katana Squadron, or the Katana Command, from Chimera, where Thrawn has his own huge Imperial like fleet in his books. This could make it to where he has a fleet, but it's all droid manufactured and ran by the Starforge kind of stuff, the ancient Rakatan technology. We have the Rakatan Crystal from Andor. We have what I believe is a star map. What I'm hoping is going to be Thrawn not probably finding a full Starforge, because of course Revan blew the fucking thing up. And then lastly, it led me to also believe, I think Hugh Yang, the droid, might be Rakatan.
I saw that video about that earlier today.
Yeah.
I like it. I don't know about the evidence behind it. I don't know how they would tie it in, or anything like that.
Yeah, the worst part is we don't know what's canon still about Rakatan. That's the problem.
Yeah, so exactly.
It's an open book right now.
And we also don't know the true origin story for Hugh Yang. It literally just says, over 25,000 years ago, he's been with the Jedi ever since.
But, so, we all like Revan. He's a cool character.
Yeah.
He's no military genius.
Right.
The idea of giving Thrawn a Starforge that's just broken as hell.
See, and that's what I thought. Like, it can't be a fully operational Starforge, because he would win. He would just win. If he had, like, hundreds and thousands of ships and destroyers and an entire army of droid, like, he would just win.
Yeah, you give one of the best military minds of all time just a way to make an instant army, just like an elite army, like.
Or if nothing else, though, maybe they just found like the Rakatan homeworld and like Rakatan technology, because again, the Purrgil. The Purgle took
the
him and Thrawn.
technology still works great. I mean,
Yes.
heck, they were using we had I believe it was Rebels. They actually used the old Hammerhead ships that were old Republic ships. So they still work great.
Yep, they still work. And but yeah, I'm also just beginning to think that it might be like they found Rakatan tech of some sort. Maybe not the full Starforge, but something that can like amplify energy output or something as simple as that, just to make him still a big threat, but not end all be all. He's going to wipe the entire galaxy out, of course, because it has to somehow wrap up before.
But he has to have something since he's been gone.
He has to have something, but it can't be so big that he survives into the sequels.
Yeah, because we would have seen some kind of residual going into the movies.
Yeah, had Sidious known, had Thrawn existed.
Between here and the sequels are kind of getting smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So the impact window is getting smaller and smaller.
This is where I think we need to tie in the last little bit with the Mandalorian that we received, where they were all sitting around at the table in that conclave talking about how each one is going to piece apart the galaxy and rule the galaxy, and then they started talking about where the hell is Thrawn.
Right. They were going to act...
We've got to tie that in with this entire discussion. That can't be...
True.
Yeah.
They're going to go back to being Moff style, taking quadrants of the galaxy, and Thrawn would pretty much then run the Empire again. Now, at this moment, the only person who knows Palpatine exists is like maybe 2 people on the council, if even. I know it's definitely the one who becomes, like Hux's dad is the one who definitely knows that Palpatine is back. He's alive. He's on Exegol, chilling, being, filled with Bacta juice pretty much. But yeah, none of the other ones know. And I feel like if Thrawn came back, I don't think it would take him very long to piece pieces together and go, I think Palpatine's still alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Thrawn would be able to put all that together in about 20 minutes.
Right.
And he most likely would, once he gets a good standing, he would try to find Palpatine. He wouldn't be on his side at that point.
You don't think he'd be on his side? I think he would find Palpatine and see how strong he is and see what he's got. Yes, he would definitely evaluate first.
Yeah, what worked for the Empire was just a means to power. He didn't really have any true loyalty to the Empire. So that's why I don't think if he had his own power at that point, I don't see him actually supporting the Emperor.
Do you think he could? Because he's wearing his Imperial Grand Moff or Grand Admiral stuff, but do you think he could try to bring the Chiss Ascendancy with him?
That would be one thing that nothing has even hinted towards. And
right.
If we know how any of this is being written, and if we know how Dave Filoni likes to do his shit, he likes to bring things in without anybody knowing about it.
Yeah, especially like weird small things that if you didn't read a book, you would have no idea about.
We don't really have any, because the only real fighting they show was with some rebel soldiers and then the 2 Dark Jedi. I don't know what we're calling them.
Yeah, Dark Jedi, and then there's the Inquisitor,
and then we see the back end of Thrawn. We don't see the ships. We don't see what he's flying with. We just see the small window, so he could have anything. As to speculate what he, I don't know. Well,
and the other thing too is this trailer. I feel like is 2 different times. You have short hair Sabine, which I believe is right after Rebels. And then the long hair, snarky Master Sabine, I think that's way later. I think there's going to be like almost a 2-parter to the Ahsoka series where the first few episodes will be probably right after Rebels, and then it'll break apart a little bit further away.
Well, what I understood is I thought she actually cuts her hair off to get back into it.
But she does that in Rebels. That's the thing. She does that exact scene in Rebels as well, but she uses a lightsaber.
Well, I thought she was going to do it again as like a way of I'm getting back
into it. Maybe 100% could possibly very well be.
Was interpreting from that.
Yeah, because again, like you said, the timeline is so shallow. We can't skip a lot of years right now, or else Thrawn would be during the sequels, and I think he'd be a much bigger threat.
But yeah, with Thrawn himself, we don't get too much of what he could have, and we still see a lot without Thrawn or any semblance of what he has,
which is good.
Honestly, we could see much of the season without anything to do with Thrawn.
Yeah, I feel like I would see him almost mid-season, unless they know they're doing. Because again, I don't feel like this could be a 4 or 5 season story. 1 or 2.
Out doing the first 2 episodes without ending the episode with his face and that's it.
Yeah,
it's to kind of tease you along to the next part. Oh yeah, and there's a couple Easter eggs in it too, because there's like the droid.
Yes,
Based on
that
Brown's
droid
theory.
is so amazing.
Several, like,
And right off of the,
frames
I loved it too
as well.
because those little side eyelets in that droid's head are the exact replica from the very first R2-D2 droid that they ever released in the Kenner line. So it's almost like an homage back to Kenner as well.
I will say though that we keep seeing the back of his head and he's walking into somewhere.
Yeah, a big office-looking space.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's very. It's weird for him to be walking to an office.
And now the only thing they've shown us about Ezra is the message he left to
Starship.
Sabine. Yeah, this is the message he left to Sabine. So like, that's the other big speculation is what the hell is going on with Ezra right now?
Well, if Thrawn's back, he's got to be back.
Does he? I mean, what if they parted ways in the Great Beyond, where they were like, all right, well, I got you away from my friends, so I guess bye. That, I feel it would be kind of lazy. I know a lot of other people are thinking, what if this Inquisitor is Ezra? You know, they found his name is Merrick. Now, the other big thing is it Galen Merrick? Is this Inquisitor Starkiller? Because Dave Filoni wanted to bring Starkiller into the Inquisitors.
If they wanted to make him a real character, it would make sense because that's kind of like the canon.
And it's a cool duality. You literally have Anakin's apprentice versus Darth Vader's secret apprentice. He probably wouldn't be, you know, secret apprentice if he's just an Inquisitor because Vader hates the Inquisitors. And I would love to see live action Sam Witwer. I am not ever going to say no to that. But man, do I really? I feel like he's going to die so early. I don't want it to be Galen Merrick if he's going to only have like 2 fights with Ahsoka and then be killed. That's such a big character, but it also sounds like something that Filoni would do of like, hey guys, look, he's here. Okay, he's gone. We can move on now. And then we also, again, there's all the Rakatan stuff. There's all of the stuff with like Balin acting like, again, Thrawn's going to have something to really pull together. And as we've seen in Rebels, he can take almost nothing though and turn it into a threat. He himself, just by studying culture, studying art, studying things like that. If he's on a Rakatan homeworld, he's having a heyday right now.
Because knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Simple enough.
Right. And that what you were talking about just made me think, yes, he's walking into that office and it's a very lit area. So obviously he's on a planet. He could be on Rakata Prime. We don't know. Rakata Prime is just in the unknown reaches of space. Like the entire Infinite Empire held a huge swath of land. I feel like this would also make a bit of sense though, because with the Dawn of the Jedi stuff getting ready and all of these super prequels getting set, they almost kind of need to drop a little bit more lore if the Rakatans or anything like that are going to be involved. Because I don't think we can't do too much explaining in Dawn of the Jedi, or else it's going to suffer from the same thing that like the first book in the High Republic does. I love it, but it's setting up an entire timeline, so it's a little weird sometimes. It like crosses over here and there, and it's more concerned with like character backstory and era building than it is with writing, due to the fact that you literally have to know the information to make the writing work.
Yeah, it's either you just drop people in there and hope they can catch up, or try to build up and explain things.
And TV shows are TV shows are a good way to build up.
Doing that.
Right, and hopefully they'll turn.
It's the marketing and sales behind the entire process. If anything, behavioral science has taught me is this. If you want to bring people in to buy something that they may not normally buy, you invest them in something that they already would invest into. So that way they're like, ooh, this is interesting. Now let's go to this. Right.
And it'd be the best way to get someone into the Old Republic, into the Dawn of the Jedi with Ahsoka, because if you've seen Clone Wars, like almost every single modern fan pretty much has, or The Mandalorian now, especially The Mandalorian brought in a lot of new fans. You've now seen Ahsoka. Oh, that was really cool. Oh, the Ahsoka series? But because of the Ahsoka series, I feel like I'm happy to say I don't think it's going to do any, hey, this is what happened in Rebels. And I don't think it should. Like, if you haven't watched Rebels by now, bro, I don't know what to tell you. Like,
yeah, you're missing out.
You're missing out. I mean,
if you think it's a kid's show,
it starts off a little rough.
Go watch that.
But so did the Clone Wars. So, I mean, if you like the Clone Wars, you don't have an excuse not to like Rebels.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, but the art design, like, it just looks more like McQuarrie's art. Like, they're just a little sharper. Who cares? So, yeah, the trailer also talks about in the very end, of course, we're going to have a 2-episode premiere in the very beginning. That's going to be super fire. I am very excited for that.
It's kind of standard at that point.
Right, and I feel like the 2-episode premieres are also a good way to kind of, like, tell, oh, this is going to be nuts. The first episode will, again, probably set up a little bit of stuff and then get into a conflict. Second episode will probably just... I could see the second episode probably being more like Balin and Scotty's lore and like story a little bit. Like when they're invading that Republic ship and murking everybody.
That'd be an excellent hook.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Well, the entrance is so New Hope. The way he's walking through there, just like Darth Vader.
Yes.
I'm going through the scenes real quick while you're talking. I'm pretty sure she cuts her hair during the show, not as a flashback.
And well, she's also using a knife instead of a saber, so...
Yeah. And
which would be an interesting tieback if she used the same knife that Kanan used.
Well, she has the new design, and also too, because you could tell what part of it, the way her hair is colored and her armors, because she changes a lot.
Yep. Well, because now she has like, another reason why I think she might be a little force sensitive. She did also just paint the Morai on her pauldron.
That has been in there since
Rebels. Yeah.
Been in there since I think there's 4 seasons, 5 seasons. There's 5. How many seasons of Rebels?
Oh my goodness.
4 or 5 seasons of Rebels.
But it's a later thing because that's when Ezra has his short hair as well, and that's when Ezra has his short hair and green lightsaber.
Yes, so she paints it at the start of season 4. I remember that.
Yeah, because with Ahsoka.
This Inquisitor helmet is very unique. A lot of the Inquisitors look very similar, but this one design is the most unique that
It's also the most like actual knightly armored we've seen an Inquisitor helmet look in a long time.
So as we're talking the Inquisitor, because I'm looking at the scenes right now, since you both, you know some sword fighting. What do you think about a sword when you're about to fight somebody and you just shove your hand out in front of them and just start spinning the blade?
I was really
have your hand right there.
Well, especially after Tales of the Jedi. Bro, don't do that to Ahsoka. Don't she will ruin you. She literally just separated homeboys with his own saber and killed him.
Well, she in the trailer she swings at the blade, which he's literally just handing his hand over to her. It's like, here, just swing at cut my hand off.
And that's when we're getting into just like, I don't know, the Star Warsiness of it, where it's like they got to clash a few times.
I just want to see one time the Inquisitor do that. Just one of them just thrust their saber right in the middle.
Right in the hand. Yeah. I mean, I still think Tales of the Jedi did it better though. She just went, okay, give me, flip, you're dead. Disarmed him and then took him out with his own weapon.
Let's be real here. Not every fight can look like the final fight between Obi-Wan and Maul. But that's the most realistic fight that's ever existed.
That is, yes. And again, with Rebels doing such a gorgeous thing, the Binary Suns episode is so good. Wait, before we get too much into what I'm talking about with Rebels, though, yes, I'm really excited, though, for Ahsoka, because I really feel like it's going to push a lot of lore, give us a lot of springboard for what's going to be happening in the future of Star Wars projects. Now, real quick, though, what is y'all's favorite thing in Rebels? Mine? Ezra and Maul's arc. I love Ezra and Maul.
That was an arc that I really, really enjoyed. I honestly think the
arc ended very well. I liked the ending to that.
It was appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly loved the tie back to the original Ralph McQuarrie design for the lightsabers. I love the thin bladed sabers.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, and I can't get past it.
Well, the whole series is so good job of the when they were writing the episodes, they did their homework.
Oh yeah.
There's so many like deep dives to old, like I said, the old Republic ships, the old designs, and there's just so call outs of so many things. When you get to like the old lore with the Bendu and everything like that.
Oh yeah, the Bendu is a great part.
It's so much like. It's a lot different when you go to like the Clone Wars, where a lot of it's just they have like certain sections that are connected, but a lot of it's kind of serialized.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to Rebels, it all connects.
Yeah, very well.
They really go in the lore, whereas in Clone Wars, it's more just like, which is actually more kid show based because it's based on the fact that kids have less attention span, so they're not gonna go too deep into a storyline, so make it like 1 or 2 episodes long.
And they were very short in the beginning, like a few minutes.
A brand new, like this is what's gonna happen next episode. Another planet, this is what's gonna happen. But in Rebels, it's like, and they touch on some really deep stuff, and like I said, the old ancient lore that we get, and pretty much every season. I can't think of them all, but there's so I don't have a.
Right.
There's so many big spots. I mean, heck, with the whole mall, we get Thrawn as well.
I mean, this is where we learn that you can combine a Jedi and a Sith holocron. What? And you get like a super special future-telling holocron. That's cool. Imagine if these assholes could work together.
Yeah, it's almost like if balance existed.
Right.
I wonder what would happen.
And then it created the World Between Worlds as like a whole new thing.
But I feel like the best. I love the World Between Worlds though because they're not running to it. They only used it then. They haven't tried to touch it since. They're not trying to make a multiverse. It was also creepy as shit watching Palpatine be like almost in that bitch, like I'm coming. Yeah. If he had gotten in there, it's done.
A criticism about the World Between Worlds. And
yes,
I think that was like the only step, and I hope that is the only step they ever take going forward with Star Wars.
Yeah.
To any form of time travel.
Right.
I think we'll see a little bit here, but I don't think they'll go crazy with it. I think it'll be more of like kind of a rediscovering about what happened.
Or if nothing else, more of a visage. Instead of reaching into it and like pulling someone through as much as like he did with Ahsoka, viewing moments through it to learn, to remember.
Visions.
Exactly.
Honestly, it makes perfect sense if visions are coming from the World Between Worlds.
That would totally make 100% sense. I would love that. You just like they just go there for one little brief second in the episode, and you just see like Screecher's Reach up in the corner playing out.
Mm-hmm. I get the samurai.
Yeah, the Ronin.
Yeah, the Ronin.
That would be a terrifying person to bring into the normal Star Wars universe, because he will 100% be like, in 2 moves, I'm going to kill you. I'm not here to clash swords. I also really enjoy when it comes to Rebels, though, with Ezra. Everyone loves the Glock saber. Like, that kid invented the world's first pew-pew lightsaber. And why not? That makes perfect sense. He's like, why would I not do this? They're way over there. I can't get them.
You blade lock with somebody and just shoot them. So.
Bro, that would be so perfect. Just like, haha. They're like, oh, nice handguard. What? Pew. Yes.
Because that's one thing I actually liked about Ezra's saber, or his little Glock saber. It never killed. It always stunned.
And it had the. I mean, imagine. I can't imagine he couldn't have just flipped a few switches and made that lightsaber shoot out the other end.
If they do, too bad he doesn't have it. Because I would love to see an adult Ezra. Because he wouldn't easily done as a kid, but just use it as like a knuckle guard. Just punch somebody with it. Just clock them over the face with it. They're like locking and unlock, just punches them.
Right. Yeah, that nice lock where he just goes and sideways. I think though, when it comes to Ezra now, one of the big things we're going to be seeing is come on. Yeah, I got a little fuzzy. I put my hands too close to the camera. I got confuddled. I feel like Ezra in the Ahsoka series, if we do see him, is gonna be grizzled. He's gonna be. I mean, if he spent all this time with Thrawn's talked to him. They've had conversations. And as we saw with Ezra and Maul, Ezra does not go into any conversation with anyone with preconception ideas.
Yeah, that's the funny part, because we think of like Ahsoka having one of the most well-known masters of all time, but getting to Ezra, he's had both now Thrawn and Maul as a master at this point.
Yep.
Well, I don't think Thrawn would accept Ezra as an apprentice or a student. I
think you would
respect him.
I think you would.
He outsmarted him. If nothing else, he's gonna give him kudos. He's like, okay, kid, you got me.
Yeah, he outsmarted him, and he'll give him credit where credit is due. But Thrawn also doesn't fully. No, I'm not going to try to say that.
It's fine. So one of my things is, Thrawn respects almost everyone due to the fact that he understands their potential.
Yes.
What I think is he could see that potential within Ezra. If he could bring him onto his side.
Yeah.
Because, I mean.
That's what he would think.
That Imperial shuttle had troops in it. He was holding the door closed so the troops couldn't get to him and holding Thrawn in place.
Ezra, at a young age, was able to outmaneuver him a few times, and how well he did against him. He sees that potential at a young age. And he's still at a young age, especially compared to Thrawn. Thrawn's oldest.
Yeah.
Dirt.
I feel like he definitely captured him. Because, like, I don't think Ezra's going to try and kill his way off of a ship in deep nowhere space. Like, where is he going to go?
I hope we get to see a flashback of Kanan, because I'm sad that we won't get to see live action. She's one of my favorite characters. I know Freddie Prinze Jr. said he's not going to do it, which I'm like, fuck you. You don't. You could use some.
Yeah, make someone who actually looks like him, because Freddie Prinze Jr. doesn't look like him. He just was the voice. But Freddie Prinze Jr. was the voice in Rise of Skywalker, so that's the only problem. Is live action Kanan is still Freddie Prinze Jr.'s voice. It's not hard to mimic, but
I love his design. I love his shoulder pauldron he has.
Yeah.
He's also my favorite lightsaber designs. I love the
Mhm.
guard. I love that he can just disassemble it and it just looks like spare parts.
Kanan Jarrus, Caleb Doom, easily one of the coolest Jedi out there. Has a crazy backstory, like really dove into I'm no longer a Jedi, whatever, but always kind of kept that like in the past. I remember the first time I was watching the episode where they're saving all these Wookiees and he finally just lights up. And was it who's Mr. Sideburns? Everyone, Zeb's apparent gay partner.
Oh, you're talking about I don't remember his name.
Callus?
Yeah, Callus.
Callus. Okay, yes. But Callus then points and goes, "Focus fire on the Jedi." And I was like, "Oh my god!" So they did a really good job. Even though we knew like it's Star Wars, it's going to be Jedi. They always made it feel different, feel awesome. And like the Loth Wolves, these amazing creatures connected to the Force that can pretty much teleport and just like be wherever the hell they want to be. That was super cool. Like these creatures that can access almost the world between worlds for travel. Crazy.
Good thing they don't suck the Force out of people though.
Yes, good thing they're not levelers. And then the Bendu. I thought the Bendu was awesome because to a lot of people, they want to say that the light side of the Force is the purest balance in all things. But then creatures like the Bendu would not exist.
Yeah.
The Bendu is that ultimate balance within oneself. I'm not saying the galaxy, but definitely within himself and his sphere of there must be both sides to find that perfect identity, that perfect in between. And that was like the Bendu also is a term from Old Republic lore, because that's what it was. The original planet of Tython, where the Jedi Order is founded, they had the two moons of Ashla and Bogan. Ashla was the light side, Bogan was the dark side. To find balance was Bendu. And that was the term. Yeah, that was the term they've always used for it. The balance was the Bendu.
Because and that's going off of, I know there's the famous quote that George Lucas did, and a lot of people use that as a reference. But yeah, Rebels kind of a reawaken, and we often forget because we see the main characters are always the Jedi and the good guys, but we forget that the Jedi organization, the religion, what do you even call it, isn't the only source of the Force, not the only people that worship the Force, and the only people that follow the Force. So it's just their interpretation of it. And there's a lot of other groups that don't believe the light side is the balance.
Yeah, and there's plenty of groups on Jedha that practice a bit more dark side, but are not Sith. That's always one of my biggest things is like the dark side is not a Sith. Even Maul, I think, in Rebels, kind of quits being a Sith and just becomes a dark sider. Because he's
quit being a Sith for a long time.
Yeah, he's just trying to kill Palpatine, not to take over, as in like a Sith Lord again, but just be like, you ruined me. You left me to nothingness. Yeah, it was 100% revenge.
With revenge.
That was his whole purpose, and that's why, that moment when he's lying in Obi-Wan's arms, and he's just like, I sense him. Is he going to be the one? And Obi-Wan's just like, yes. And the first time in Maul's probably entire life, he feels relief. Peace. That's so awesome. In that spare moment right there, Maul found peace, knowing that someone would live on to bring revenge.
That's why I wish... Because it's like the weird mix that we get with him, and then him doing the whole. I wish they wouldn't necessarily have him run. Is it the Dark Sun, or no, this other one? When he becomes a gang leader, Crimson.
Yeah,
Sun.
Crimson.
I wish they wouldn't have had him.
Crimson Dawn. Hold on.
Crimson Dawn.
Crimson
Yeah.
Dawn.
Black Sun, which is the Phalines, and then Crimson Dawn.
I think because that kind of contradicts some of his path. I wish that part of it, and it's only a small part because they've never really gone back over very few.
Yeah, definitely Crimson Dawn was a way for him to just make money. Yeah, make money and have influence. Try to build up an army to kill Palpatine and take over the galaxy again.
And no other purpose than to serve his own individual, personal purposes.
Very much, very, very, very much so. And
he didn't care about the crimes. He didn't care about the syndicate. He just cared about what he could use them for.
Yep. And that's also kind of like what goes in with, I mean, and not to mention, I love it when the Inquisitors first show up on Malachor and they're like, oh, Maul, what are you going to do? And he's like, you guys are dead.
Wipes them out.
Wipes them out. Oh, I love it. One of them literally does that stupid little helicopter thing away. I love the Inquisitors. The helicopter thing is dumb.
Yes, I agree. So there is actually a lot of discussion about quite literally the Inquisitor that helicoptered his way away when flying and crash. Because as a very common theme that we've seen in Star Wars, if you don't see them get stabbed or shot, they aren't dead.
Yeah, no body.
Inquisitor fall. What Jedi, what Force user have we ever seen actually die from a fall?
Right. The falling does not kill them.
That Inquisitor in particular had the exact same helmet, or not the exact same, but a very, very similar helmet design to the Inquisitor that we see in Ahsoka's trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of discussion about whether or not that actually is the same Inquisitor.
I feel like the three big ones are Barriss Offee, Starkiller, and now Starkiller because they found out his name's Merrick, and then of course just that one Inquisitor who we never saw the body of. Barriss Offee would be dope, but I don't think that's a female. I didn't look very femme, I should say, but I also really do enjoy all of the. I think the Fifth Brother, for me personally, Fifth Brother is one of my all-time favorite Inquisitors. Sadly, that only really comes out from the Jedi Battle Scars book, because that book talks a lot more about him and like gives him reason. It talks about like, his planet was strip mined by the Republic, and the Jedi promised they would stop if they would start giving their Force-sensitive children to the Jedi Order. They did, and the Republic strip mined the entire planet and left it desolate. So he hates the Jedi and the Republic for a legitimate reason. And that's why Fifth Brother is definitely my favorite. Now, Second Sister is fine, but you guys have a favorite Inquisitor?
I don't know if I have one. I'm not a big fan of the Inquisitors, to be honest.
Not even the Grand Inquisitor?
The idea of them is cool, but I don't really have a I don't know.
That's fine.
Not my favorite.
I out of all the Inquisitors, personally, I enjoyed the story arc of the Grand Inquisitor the best, especially whenever he started to show up in some of the comics. Specifically, whenever he came in contact with Jocasta Nu, and Jocasta Nu busted out her fucking lightsaber rifle. That was. Whenever I started to see a lot of him popping up, and then we see a lot of the arc that came into play with Kanan and the Grand Inquisitor before he was the Grand Inquisitor, knighting Kanan, creating him as a Jedi Knight. I enjoyed the story arc behind a lot of the Grand Inquisitor, and I enjoyed a lot of the back end stuff. But as a character at the very beginning, I was like, meh. And whenever I saw him show up in the Obi-Wan series, that was cool too. But I still got a lot of the same vibe that I had from the Grand Inquisitor in Season 1 of Rebels. But in Season 2 and 3, that's where I really started to enjoy the Grand Inquisitor.
Yes, to me, and him being a Temple Guard was awesome. That was like, whoa! Not only is he a fallen Jedi, he's a literal Temple Guardian that fell to the dark side. I've always loved the idea of the Inquisitorium as well, like especially with the Obi-Wan series, where we now know the Inquisitors were just like throwing Force sensitives in amber and holding them forever. So like, what the hell is going on there?
Yeah, that was a smart tactic.
Yeah. And they bested Master Sinube. They bested a lot of Jedi. Again, Obi-Wan real quick. You see that room where they have their meetings, and they're just lined with lightsaber hilts. They've unalived a lot of Jedi.
The concept's not new. They're based on the Imperial Knights. They replaced Imperial Knights. The Imperial Knight design's kind of cheesy, so I do like the new armor.
Yeah, they're based off the Imperial Knights, and then they took a little bit more inspiration from Starkiller because he was the first called Inquisitor, almost like in more popular media, I should say, like the widely accepted media. Galen Merrick / Starkiller was also an Inquisitor sent out to just kill everybody, pretty much.
I mean, well, he was the right hand of Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Imperial Knights are essentially just force sensitive. They were kind of like just.
They wear the red armor still, right?
They weren't Sith, and they were more closer to Jedi than they were Sith.
But they just served the Empire.
Yeah. They were basically just they worked for the Empire, worked for Sidious,
and they used
to what they did.
They all had white lightsabers because they weren't about like they were all uniformed.
Bulky red armor, and they were. I think most of them had like blue sabers. I don't think they had red sabers.
I think they were like white almost, but yeah, that was before all the like colors were really canonized as what the hell is going on here.
That was the first kind of Imperial, like the first Inquisitors. They basically did the same thing, but yeah.
You know, and also kind of thinking about it, I feel like Ezra to me shares a lot of similarity with Luke Skywalker.
Yes. Well, the reality is Ezra was born on the day that the Republic died.
Yeah.
And the Empire rose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was Empire Day. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
When was Luke and Leia born?
Right. Literally the beginning of the fall of everything.
Yeah, they're the same age.
Well,
yeah.
They did that on reason because the idea of like because it's kind of almost a continuation of the Clone Wars in its own route. The Clone Wars is kind of based on where Ahsoka kind of takes the role of like Anakin, and then Ezra takes the role of Luke.
Mm-hmm.
So you get some parallels, like you get with the crew themselves, almost mirror off Luke Skywalker's crew. You get their own version of a Wookiee, you get their own version of Han Solo.
Yep.
With the pilot.
Hera is awesome.
The Han Solo kind of characters kind of split into two.
Mm-hmm.
You get Sabine and Hera almost kind of make the combination.
And Chopper.
And then I guess Leia might be closer to Hera and Sabine probably closer to Han.
Yeah, and then Chopper is just chaos. Chopper has the highest kill count in all of Star Wars.
R2, but crazier. But crazier. He's pretty nutty.
Chopper is chaotic neutral R2.
Yeah. I don't know. I could go a little. He's pretty close. There's an alignment shift coming up if he doesn't calm down.
You can just focus on what he gets away with. It's pretty net.
How many times he's just like shoved Ezra into a hole? He'd be like,
Okay, let's be real. Chaotic loyal. How about that?
Chaotic loyal. Yeah. Oh, he's very loyal to Hera.
Yeah.
I always love it. Anytime Kanan would get too close, he was just like, watch it. Hey.
I would say one thing I actually enjoyed a little bit was, and this was a very subtle tone that they played a little bit throughout, was that Chopper had PTSD.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Because he's like never been wiped.
Yeah, because as soon as they came back to Ryloth, you clearly see it.
Well, I just like that he was just like clearly just he's been fixed so many times and it shows.
Yep.
Him going after the spare leg. Whole episode. I forgot about that inventory droid.
Oh yeah, the inventory droid.
The relationship was R2 and C3PO, but
Crank.
much more sarcastic.
Oh yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, and that's also a game where we get a lot more from Thrawn being way more of like a really crazy player in that because he just almost annihilates this first rebel base. That is, of course, where Kanan's going to learn about the Bendu. He's going to start really teaching Ezra a lot more. He's going to start teaching Sabine a lot more about like how to wield the Darksaber eventually and stuff. I also really enjoyed Sabine's arc where she almost becomes Mandalore. Honestly.
Yeah, she gave it up, and I loved it.
She essentially
but she ruined Mandalorians because of it.
Mandalore for a short time.
Yeah.
Very short time, but yeah.
And then just didn't want it and gives it to Sabine, or gives it to
It really doesn't fit her character. She kept it though.
It does not fit her character, but at the same time, it's just like, boy, did that start a whole bunch of downfall.
What I'm wondering about is whether or not we'll ever see the weapon come back. Which
nah.
What
I hope not.
Called it. Yeah, I loved the idea.
Yes.
Well, I don't.
I hate that it created something like that can just come in and just wipe out Mandalorians. I hated that.
Well, look, I was telling him. I don't know if you saw our podcast that once the Darksaber was kind of introduced, it really rewrote a lot. Clone Wars themselves rewrote a lot of Mandalorian culture and design in general, where it changed it to more this kind of feudal idea, where it's more houses and
clans.
more blood. Well, clans have always existed, but clans were just groups of people, kind of similar to the new Mandalorian, where you just rescued people, new young members, and you brought them up into the culture regardless of who they were. And so anybody could make themselves clan leader. Anybody can make them, but they would have to earn the respect of the clan. They didn't just grab a sword and become Mandalore. That would never work. And you could still defeat Mandalore in a duel, but doesn't mean you're going to be Mandalore, because you got to have all the clans respect to follow you. And so that the idea of Mandalorians was just this warrior culture of family, and the big slogan was family or clan is more than blood. The idea of being brothers and sisters as a clan and as Mandalorians was just a strong kinship. And the idea of uniqueness of armor. No two armor was the same. But we get that with Clone Wars, where they all had the same armor design, same colors, because of the clan. That wasn't the original idea with Mandalorians, where everybody was unique. Again, we see that it's like the idea of the Mandalorian show was almost a way for them to rewrite the Mandalorians back to where they were.
Mm-hmm.
You notice the cult was all unique armor design. They were buying parts. They all had their own roles. There was no special blood houses, so it was kind of like they were reverting back to the original idea of Mandalorians.
Yeah, and they revert.
That makes sense because we saw that with Pre Vizsla in the clan within the Mandalorian, so that makes sense. I'll be honest, Mandalorian culture is something that never. I mean, it's always been interesting to me. I've always enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, but it's never something that I was that I fixated on and learned.
Right.
Yeah, that was the thing that I got into really young. I got into a lot of things with it, and I got into Mandalorian books very early on, and everybody was deep into it, deep dive, and there's so much that was built about it, and a lot of that really hit off during the Clone Wars, because they started doing. Well, the original clone ideas were based on training on Mandalorians, and they were trying to bring into that culture. Yeah,
the comma. That's one of the big things. The comma they wear in the shock troopers is Mandalorian design.
Well, a lot of the J guys that Rex wears, that's the Mandalorian design. The wolf from Wolf, that's supposed to be Mandalorian. All that's kind of they kind of appropriated from who taught them, the original Mandalorians who. That's how it was, but I think they might have changed it. I don't know.
Right. Now, deep dive, I know another thing before it gets too late in this episode we got to talk about when it comes to Rebels.
Yeah.
Ahsoka versus Vader. That was an amazing episode. And, of course, we got the first ever, cracked helmet thing. But I love it. I love the duality of Ahsoka breaks this side, Obi-Wan breaks this side, Luke is able to remove the helmet.
Yes, I didn't think about it that way.
Probably the second
different sides.
Most wanted reuniting that we've wanted in all of Star Wars.
And the I'm no Jedi line is so cold. Revenge is not the Jedi way. I'm no Jedi. And then they just go at it. And I love it though, she's fighting her own battle inside too, of this isn't Anakin, there's no way, this is not Anakin. Until she sees that face and those blue eyes for that brief second, she was like, no, this is Darth Vader. It's a totally different person. She saw the blue eyes, and it breaks her to her soul.
Yeah. And she said, then I will avenge him.
Yes. Oh, that's so powerful.
I love her later design after that, too. For a full master design, almost. Well, master. Not really.
Because that's the best Jedi trial she could ever have.
Right.
Yeah, that's why so many people are upset when we first saw live action Ahsoka, because it felt like they went backwards with her.
But then, as anyone who's done any actual acting and or tried to do any choreography in a fucking helmet, I can't imagine trying to do any of that with that thing. That's also why I like with Hera. They've completely reduced her Liku in the Ahsoka series because it's just easier. The one thing I don't like, where are the tattoos? That's not a hard thing to do. Hera doesn't have any of her tattoos in the Ahsoka series.
Yeah, she's already green. pretty easy to just apply some
white. It's just like a little bit of white pigment on it.
But they've actually listened to fans, and they've improved her design,
Yes.
which is, if you look at her what she's now in the Ahsoka compared to when she first was announced in Mandalorian.
Yeah, they have increased the montrals. They have, they look more
better quality.
older.
The first one, it looked like literally like I bought it off of Amazon because they were you could tell they were fake.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah, this one looks really good. They move a lot more almost, which I think is a part of it, is finding, which I probably, it took a few trials. They found the right mixture of latex and, ribbing to make it move, but not jiggle. It doesn't need boob physics.
I think they wanted to try to be, because that was the first idea of the early on the manual, is be as much practical back to the old school way as possible, but I think they went a little too far without,
Now, of course, Rebels, though, being more based off of Ralph McQuarrie, my big thing, and a lot of people are also pissed off about Thrawn. Why does he have pupils? Because if you didn't have pupils, you can't fucking see anything. That's not how light receptors work a certain way in your eyeball. So, I get that Chiss are supposed to have all red eyes, but it doesn't bother me that this guy is going to have a black pupil in the center of a red eye. He looks good, I think. And it's large. It is the voice. We are getting Thrawn, just like we got Bo.
That was the least of my complaint when I saw Thrawn.
Yeah.
The fact that we get to see him at all in live action.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
Because Thrawn's character is so old, and it's just... it's just crazy. And that was the one thing I saw somebody say. It's like, what if you go back in time in 20 years and say, hey, there's going to be a live action Thrawn?
Dude.
What do you think people would say?
They would be like, whatever. That book guy? No way. Now, here's a big thing that I want to ask you guys. Do you think Ahsoka will die? I say no. There'd be no reason for it, but it would fucking impact. It would be impactful.
Well, she's going to die eventually.
I mean, duh.
Yeah.
We do hear Ahsoka's voice talk to Rey.
Why I say that, yes. And they're only wanting to do an 8-part episode, or eight episodes for this. And
right.
They haven't said whether or not they want to do a second season.
I feel like...
already had
yes. If Ahsoka doesn't die, she has to join Rey.
Would stop watching Star Wars after that point.
Oh yeah, my wife would be livid.
But she eventually has to go to the Force. And honestly...
Well, I mean, also, though, we could cop out and she's like, yeah, she was meditating, bro. She just knew something bad was happening, so she meditated and was able to speak to Rey. They can do that. They have telepathy.
Love Luke, but I think she'd have a way more powerful Force ghost than... I think the only one probably, out of the more recent Jedis, probably Yoda, probably the only one that's stronger.
Yeah.
Being a Force ghost.
Or there's Qui-Gon. He's number 1, bro.
Yeah. Whenever
I don't know.
Jedi that spoke to
pretty powerful.
Rey, did we ever hear Ezra?
No.
Okay, I couldn't remember or not.
Nope, we do not hear Ezra. Okay. But again, yeah. So Ezra could totally... I mean, I want Cal Kestis and Ezra Bridger to join Rey Skywalker.
I could see it.
That would make perfect sense. That would build a legitimately balanced Jedi Order. Rey has had so much suffering with her dyad, with her family past, with becoming a Skywalker pretty much. We have Cal Kestis, who has gone through some shit. No spoilers for Survivor yet, guys, but oh my god, he goes through some stuff in Survivor and realizes that balance is much more what you make of it.
He's
and then
the easiest character you have to translate in the live action.
Yeah, because it's just Cameron Montague. There you go. It's like Starkiller. There's Sam Witwer. There you go. Yeah. And then with Ezra Bridger, same thing. He understood the duality of, I need to save the people I care about, and me caring about them is not the problem. Sometimes I'll get a little out of hand, but caring and loving these friends of mine will not actually harm my ability within the Force.
He would be a really good teacher for Rey.
Yes.
Rey still hasn't really had great teaching.
Right.
She'd still be hard to consider a master.
I mean,
she's done a lot.
Ezra has learned a lot about the dark side and the light side.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's able to imbue that and teach that back to Rey. Cal Kestis has learned a lot about surviving and keeping alive.
They both had access to ancient teachings. Both Cal and Ezra, so they both have a lot of knowledge.
But then again, Ezra also had like the entire Rebel fleet behind him. Cal did not. Cal had his buddies on that ship.
I mean, that's true.
But it's like the Ghost Crew. There's a lot of honest, easy comparison between Cal Kestis and Ezra Bridger. But, ooh, that's a good one. Who wins in a fight, Ezra Bridger or Cal Kestis?
I don't know enough about Cal Kestis' fighting style. I
That-
have not played either of the games, so I
So
don't know.
that's so that's it's gonna be hard because you're comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Cartoon and cartoon violence and then video game violence are two different. Both of them have
Right.
ways to go broken, but with the balance of the video game, I think he's a little OP just because of being a video game character.
That's a good point.
It's for a reason because you want to be able to feel that power playing the character. If he was translated to a real character, I think Ezra probably would.
More training, yeah.
More, he's had more access than Cal did. Cal didn't really get much of a master.
True.
Not a consistent master.
Right. Not until like Sierra Junda a little bit later, but that's not even like full tutelage really.
He just shoots him, that's all.
Yeah. Pew. Haha.
That would be a kid version of him.
Well, and that's another thing. Ezra does something that Cal does that was very, very impressive. I'm not afraid of you. And then Lord, I just love it. Vader replies, then you will die braver than most.
Yeah, they're very similar. They both definitely get away from the old school Jedi ways, which, I mean, if you look up why they were taught, like I said, Ezra. Heck, he was taught by Maul at one point. So.
Yep. I mean, oh yeah. Yeah, they had a really good tutelage there with Maul. I mean, he bonded with Maul when they were putting those holocrons together to the point where they literally saw within each other's soul almost.
Yep.
So that was
similar to the dyad.
Right. Ooh. That's very true.
I don't think we get that level of...
No, but...
Similar.
Right. In that brief moment...
Yeah, well, it was supposed to be kind of, I think the idea was supposed to be kind of a parallel because you get Maul, who's, if you look at his past, he's very chaotic, very wild, very dark, hatred. And then you get Ezra that is almost kind of, because they both kind of like mirror each other in a way, because you get Maul where sometimes he kind of bounces away to where he's kind of going close to neutral, and then he goes the opposite. You get Ezra, he'll go close to the neutral, and then he'll bounce back to the good. So they kind of bounce, like almost opposite forces, kind of bouncing close to each other.
They're magnets.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And the whole Malachor thing was awesome because, like, that moment, like, or all these different, like, Rebels brought in a lot of cool stuff. When they go to the temple on Lothal, Ezra picks up an old Republic lightsaber that has a crossguard and stuff. That was cool. Didn't expect that was before the sequels came out.
Yeah.
So that was like the first crossguard we ever saw.
There's a lot of. Well, I think that was kind of supposed to be a promo for the new movie because that season came out really, like before the movie came out.
Yeah.
So I think it was supposed to kind of like, ooh, look, crossguard.
Yeah, Filoni was like, that looks really cool. I'm gonna put it in Rebels.
But yeah, there's so many like deep undertones in Rebels that is not. They say it's the children's version when you compare it to Clone Wars, but it's not.
It really isn't.
Much more. It gets way more deeper than the Clone Wars.
The amount of self-introspection that Ezra has to constantly do makes like anyone watching also goes, "Is that why I act like that? Hold on."
And they did that for a reason because, and Dave Filoni says he did that with the Clone Wars as well. The reason why it starts so simple and so basic is because it's supposed to be, because they're so young, they're supposed to start off childish, and you're supposed to see the growth. And so as you get more, the series gets more complex as the character starts growing and maturing through the show. And they did that as well with the Clone Wars. You can actually go back and see early Ahsoka in the early show and how it's almost going through childlike lens. You go to the very last season, which is like a complete 180. It's more mature, more adult, there's more violence. And it's the same way in Rebels. They did the same perspective. So you kind of get the idea of almost kind of seeing it through Ezra's lens of how he's starting to mature through the world. It's just shorter, so it progresses a lot faster.
Yeah, and I kind of enjoy too how Mandalorian showed us a bit of like what Ahsoka has been doing in the interim years between the Ahsoka series and the end of Rebels, where she's still hunting down Thrawn and stuff, but very much like on her own because she didn't want to be with anyone else. So I feel like that'll be a huge part of the Ahsoka series. Is Ahsoka fighting the fear of the same thing happening again?
Yeah.
Sabine has to now fight the fear of, am I going to be good enough to help someone like Ahsoka do these grandiose things? And if we get to see Ezra, he's going to be afraid of whatever scars and baggage he's going to be carrying after being stuck in the middle of fucking deep space with Thrawn for like a decade. Mm-hmm. And I think this series is going to be a lot more emotional than people, because of course this trailer is energy, and that's great, but that could literally all take place in like 3 episodes.
Yeah, it's just to get you interested.
Exactly, it's a hook, and it worked. I mean, everyone's way more interested now. I can't wait to do the reaction to the first 2 episodes, August 23rd. I'm going to be up very late, and I'm going to be okay with it.
Naturally.
Yeah. I won't be up late because I graduate the day after, so.
As much as I would love to watch it the time it comes out, I gotta be functional. I get that, because I'm not gonna probably be able to sleep after that.
I'm passed out asleep because I stayed up several hours watching Ahsoka.
Yeah. Welcome to the state of Mike.
I have an infant, so who knows, I may be up that night.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh god. Yeah. You're watching Star Wars. I don't care. You're watching Star Wars. You were awake. You're watching Star Wars.
He already watched all 4 seasons of Rebels.
That's so quickly, just then to talk about like a little fun thing. I gotta say, the Young Jedi Adventures was really fun. So it's super bright, super colorful. Might hold a little bit more interest. It's not like once they're past like Super Baby and more into toddler, it's not interesting enough to keep them like Bluey or something. But I look forward to more Star Wars media set for younger kids too. Fuck you, Bob Iger. I'll say it right now. Shut the fuck up. That's dumb. I want as much Star Wars content as they want to put out. If the writer exists and they want to write this story and it's good enough to be okayed by Kathleen Kennedy, by Dave Filoni, by Jon Favreau, then let them make it. What's it do? Make you money?
I disagree. I don't want to see it at all because it's not fair that I had to watch stupid little shows that weren't Star Wars when I was a kid.
Hey man, BattleBot or was it Metabots was okay. I don't know what you're talking about. I love Metabots.
I was really young and I was in the Star Wars.
Beetleborgs, yeah.
I had Star Wars stuff before I even knew really what Star Wars was.
Right.
Funny part. And I don't understand how that happened because my dad wasn't that big of a Star Wars fan. So
it was everywhere, man. You couldn't go anywhere back in those days, I'm sure, without fighting. Like even like when we were born in like the early '90s. The early '90s was still you'd go in a toy aisle, Star Wars toys everywhere. Then when the Phantom Menace was coming out, oh my god!
That's what we were talking about when we were talking about merchandise. They've never done as much promotion for a Star Wars movie since Episode 1.
And it's only hurting them. Why would they not?
Everywhere.
Right.
Every product, you name it, it was there.
Bro.
You'd walk into Walmart or a gas station, you'd see those big barrels.
Big billboards.
And they had the big thing of soda, and they had like the figures inside of it. It was like a head.
Yeah, they did.
Like the bust of the body. They'd have the trash cans that were like, it was crazy.
They had stuff like this.
Uh-oh.
They had...
You got the mall treatment.
Stuff like that. They had a Padme Amidala Pepsi cardboard cutout that I totally just found in a vacant apartment, and it's mine forever now.
Every fast food had a Star Wars, like, toys. It was crazy. It was all over the place.
Yeah. So, just to kind of tie in why certain people are interested in Star Wars. My mom was interested in Star Wars whenever it first came out in '77. She was born in '71. She was young when she watched it. This is just a funny little story that ties right into it. In 1977, whenever my mom went and watched Star Wars in theaters, she went and took her mom with her, my grandmother. My grandma fell asleep in the first Star Wars movie. Fell asleep the whole thing. And what's funny? Whenever she went and watched The Last Jedi with us, years and years later, fell asleep in it too.
Which I'm just like, how do you fall asleep in the opening scene of Star Wars the first time it's ever been seen ever?
The thing is that's surprising because even like everybody, like normal, like people would never be interested in sci-fi just because it was so advanced for the time. Mm-hmm. Nobody's seen anything like it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I told you.
That's a whole nother level of I just don't care.
I have the original theatrical release of a digital. There's a team that redid the original release as it was originally shown in theaters. I have the digital version of that.
I enjoy my 2 extra dewbacks.
It's so crazy because you could only because they didn't save because of the first when they re-released it in theaters and they already made changes, and then when they finally did the home video, they had more changes. So there's the only time the original theatrical release is the only time you could see that version of it.
Yeah,
and there's so many things you're so surprising of how many things have changed since the original release.
Well, just think they put Return of the Jedi back in movies and it did great.
Yeah.
Where is the Ahsoka Tano Rosario Dawson Coca-Cola, Mountain Dew, Pepsi, Cheerios, I don't care, cardboard cutout in my local Walmart? Like, why is it not there? It's you trying to bring people in to watch the thing, yeah?
Well, even the cutouts, like I said, they had like the actual, like literally, they were like these big barrels of soda, and there were like, these busts like hanging out of them.
Yep. Or like, or you would go to like Burger King and get the cup that had like Anakin on his pod racer as the straw. Like,
but somebody owns the original release, by the way. If anyone argues that Han shots first, the original reel, Han is the only one who shoots. Greedo doesn't shoot at all.
Yeah, they had to like literally edit his head to the side and.
No, I'm saying like, well, the next release they had Greedo shooting, so they shot at, and he just misses, and then they eventually add more and more. But the original release, Han Solo just shoots. Greedo doesn't fire off at all.
That murderer.
Exactly. Yeah, he's scum villainy. And when you in the comics, the Han Solo comics, dude, Greedo and Han have been fucking each other over since their relationship started.
Over at the end of that sentence, by the way.
Yeah. I don't think that's his type. And by not his, no, I'm talking about Greedo. That's not Greedo doesn't like Han. Han's a whore.
True.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, guys, thank you all so much for joining us. This was a fun talk about Rebels, an amazing talk about the upcoming Ahsoka series, and I am so excited for what we're going to get out of this Ahsoka series and all the crazy lore things. Before we leave, I want to go around. What is one thing you guys would really like to see from the Ahsoka series? I shall start. Me personally, I want to see way more of this, like, where is Thrawn now? I'm fine with him coming back. I just wanted to know where they went. I hope there's at least a little bit where we actually get to see where Ezra and Thrawn ended up and what happened. I'm so curious. We got to see Boba coming out of the Sarlacc pit. What happened between Ezra and Thrawn?
Yeah. Sorry, you brought back a nightmare. Honestly, and you bring Boba, because that's a good example of bringing a character back. I just want to see a good series. I at this point, I'm fine with whatever we get as long as it's a good show.
Yeah.
That's all I really request of it, to be good. Because I never expected a series about my favorite character and a series about a spin-off movie that based off a spin-off movie or like related to the two.
Mm-hmm.
About a character is like, he's okay. That I would really love that series and hate the Boba Fett series in comparison. Because one was just way better written than the other. So you could throw anything in it. I just want it to be a good show.
Well, you know me, Mike. I'll say it's a good show no matter what.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it no matter what.
I would say the number one thing that I look forward to, and this is just because I enjoyed the relationship deeply in Rebels. I want to see some live action Chopper and Zeb.
Oh. And we already got live action Zeb.
Exactly. I want to see them bounce off one another, and I want to see them just go round and round on one another. I just want to sit down and laugh. I just want a good moment of just clear, honest camaraderie and laughter between two people who've known each other for a long time and love just bugging the shit out of one another.
It would be cool to see if we get the entire Ghost crew back together.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
The son and replacing the dad, since he can't be there.
Right, exactly. So, guys, again, thank you all so much for joining. I hope you have an amazing rest of your evening. I got Padme on my bed, so I got stuff to do. And
Is that a hole, actually?
Yeah.
Careful about paper cuts.
Ooh, even worse, cardboard cuts. They're thicker. Guys, thank you all so much. Have an amazing rest of your evening. And as always, may the Force serve you well.
And may the Force be with you.
What they said.